This AskReddit user asks, what was your biggest no going back now moment? Me taking pictures of the North Korean military. If I was caught, I would be in a prison camp now. Can we see the pictures? Holy st, my man, you really dodged a bullet there. Literally. Moving 1,500 miles away with 2 weeks worth of grocery money. And a 1-star hotel confirmation that would last 1 month. To hold me over until I started making some money. During takeoff on my first ever flight at the age of 30. I have a real intense fear of heights. It's funny, I've recently, over the last 10 years or so, developed a fear of heights. It really only applies on balconies or tall bridges, but in an airplane it's like I don't care. It's weird. I hate look over edges. So maybe I have a fear of falling more than heights. Like looking out a plane window is fine, but if my head's against the glass it's not. When I called my roommate ACT and she overheard me and said, "What did you just call me?" and I was like, "ST, now I have to own it." I said, "You're AFG cunt." When my abusive husband was doing his weekly ritual of interrogating me and accusing me of some made-up infidelity and goes, "Well, what's the deal here? Are we just done?" Quote. Before I could stop myself I was like, yeah, we're done. Quote. He didn't know, until that moment, that I had already spoken to a divorce lawyer and the police and had all my ducks in a row to take the FK off. But I was planning on actually meeting with the lawyer before I told him. So then it was 2 weeks of awful Jekyll and Hyde bullshit before I could leave. I have to say, even though I was like, oh shit, it did feel so FG good to say it though. FK that guy. Amen. FK that guy. Glad you got out. Signing the lease to an apartment with my long-distance girlfriend. Moving 6 hours away from home. It's relatively not that bad. But no matter the outcome, my life won't be the same after this. When I reported a coworker's rape to her attacker's boss, I knew nothing would ever be the same for anyone involved. What happened to the attacker? I knew nothing would ever be the same for anyone involved. I thought this when I told my aunt about my uncle FG with her 12-year grandchild. Turns out it only changed the child's life. They sent her away. I mean, it got her away from him but sent to a terrible place, so that was pretty screwed up. Had this moment just now. Just handed in my bachelor thesis. Last summer I replaced my roof. Standing on the ladder at the corner of the house with the shingle stripping shovel. I just stood there for 5 minutes thinking if I wanted to do this or not. Then I ripped off the first few shingles. And there was no going back. Packing up my car before telling my husband I was leaving. St. Mountain biking with some friends on a new trail. Which wasn't even a bike trail. We hiked most of the way up since it was too steep to ride up. Carried our bikes all the way up. Rested at the top for a bit and then rolled over the edge. I remember as my front tire crested and gravity started taking over, I thought, there's no way I'm stopping now. Unless a tree stops me. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. Rock on. Who all wants to get a group ride going? I know a similar feeling. I was mountain biking too, and out of some really dumb instinct I pulled the front brake way too hard. It wasn't my bike, so I didn't know it well. Luckily I didn't break anything, but when I started taking off it was a really bad feeling. Similar-ish story. My boyfriend was a competitive skier in his youth. I went to a small hill twice in elementary school and high school and didn't fall or die, so I thought I was some sort of prodigy. Fast forward about 10 years and boyfriend wants to go to a popular large ski hill for New Year's and I'm all for it. He tries. Bless his heart, he really tried. To warn me it is not like the small hill I went on, and my stubborn AE brain was all PSH yeah okay. I am woman, watch me roar. He made sure to get my skis adjusted to beginner level anyway because he clearly knew better. So we get to the slopes and ride the lift to the top, and I'm nicely gliding along as we are getting to the first hill. There's a slight decline for a bit, which was no problem at all. "This is so easy. See," I told him. "Then the ground about 20 meters away just disappears." To me it looked like a straight drop down. But since it was a blue square, it most likely wasn't. I pizzaed harder than I ever have in my life. Stopping less than a meter from the edge. Pointed to it. Looked at my boyfriend in horror and said, "No." I watched several crazy, completely insane people, including children, go down this absolute death trap and somehow live, but here I am completely frozen in fear. I looked up to seriously consider just walking back up and taking the lift down in shame, but that looked equally impossible. In ski boots no less. There is literally no way off this hill where my dignity stays intact than to go down it. After about 10 minutes of mental breakdown, I finally said what would be my motto for the day. "FK it. It's fine," out loud, and started down the slope, cutting the absolute widest curves I could to stay slow. Because I have nowhere near the fitness level of my boyfriend, my thighs constantly went numb and I'd have to stop. And when I saw stop, I mean fall. Get up, then try again. It took probably 20 to 30 minutes to get down that hill. My boyfriend staying with me the whole time, even though he must have been thinking of the Black Diamond Hills longingly. I did make it across the entire mountain, though, making our way to the ambling green circle run I was so excited for. Only to accidentally pick up too much speed and force myself to fall. It was that or crash into trees. Yard sailing my gear. Giving myself a concussion and a super bruised buttcheek. Now anytime my boyfriend or I find a GIF video of a skier whipping out, we send it to each other with the caption, "It me, you." Quote. I ran away from an abusive home at 19. I called my dad while I was at work later that day to let him know I was okay and not to come looking for me. He's a narcissist, and I was so scared he'd tell the authorities something crazy so they'd track me down for him like my boyfriend had kidnapped me. I'd left my car keys on the kitchen table, so he couldn't charge me with stealing it, as he bought it for me. Emptied my bank account, because he was friends with the small bank owner, and taken everything I could with me, and that was a pretty big one. He said, "You'll never make it without me and my money," and I just said, "I can't wait to find out." Quote. That was 7 years ago now. And I'm making it. Getting in the ambulance after suffering a grand mal seizure from alcohol withdrawals. When I finally said enough is enough and decided I needed to quit drinking before it killed me. I thought I could detox on my own, as I was terrified of hospitals. I was wrong. I spent a week detoxing in the ICU. And now, almost a full year later, I'm still very happily sober, and I'm completely thriving. I've witnessed 2 friends seize from alcohol withdrawals. It's crazy. One of my friends fell back into alcohol and nearly died from liver failure. Through some sort of a miracle, he survived and is doing well. I can remember having what was supposed to be our last conversation on the phone. He wasn't supposed to make it through the weekend. Good job. I'm happy for you. How much does someone have to drink to have withdrawals? Curious. It's not the amount, but more like how long have they been drinking. And it all depends on the person. I don't know how closely I've come to seizures. But after months of binge drinking daily, nightly without a rest, on the order of 24 to 30 drinks per day, I've been to the point where if I stopped cold turkey, I'd have localized numbness, especially in my hands. Could barely walk because my legs were jello. Heart palpitations, dizziness, vertigo, extremely anxious, delusional, disordered thoughts, nausea, inability to sleep, night sweats, general shakes, especially in the hands. All that kind of stuff. ST is no joke. Alcohol is the one drug where you have to taper under supervision to wean yourself off of. Other drugs might have terrible withdrawals, but you're not likely to die from them. Some people do that for years. So you can only imagine how much worse it would get. Generally, It takes about 72 hours to a week after your last drink to know whether or not you're going to seize up. Editing upon request. Please add an edit to include benzos, Xanax, Valium, Klonopin, as another drug that requires supervised tapering. Alcohol and benzos are the two drugs you can die from withdrawals. Any other drug you will feel like death but you won't die. Quote, when I decided to venture alone on a hiking trail through the Brazilian rainforest. Realized there was no phone coverage after half an hour. Kept walking for another hour. And finally saw a sign of civilization. A literal sign. Just that. It said, beware of coral snakes. Crossing the Rubicon. Alia iacta est. That first time being dropped off on the Appalachian Trail several states away from home and watching the car speed off into the distance with nothing by my own legs and a stick I found to get me back. I love that stick. I'd FK that stick if it had genitals. Edit. I'm butthurt that this is my top-rated comment so far. And because I didn't use lube. Oh my god. I've dreamt of doing the Appalachian Trail for the last 6 years or so. How was your experience? I also know I shouldn't do it. Because I went on a 32-mile one-way hike last month and was praying for a tree to fall on and kill me so I didn't have to walk the 32 miles back. LO. I saw so many people hurt themselves and quit within the first 2 weeks because they were all pushing too hard. All this talk of cranking out 20s like it's no big deal. I went like 8 to 12 miles a day for the first week and was still sore every day. After that I kept it 12 to 15 and took it easy if I felt something off. The miles will come. You'll get in better shape. All you have to do is not quit and everything will sort itself out. But if you start trying to crush miles and you FK up your knee, well, that's kinda dumb. Depends on how hellbent you are to make it to Katahdin in one season. If you absolutely must complete the trail in a single year, you'll feel pressure nearly every day to make miles and power through minor injuries. OTOH. If you just want to walk for a few months, it's awesome. You just go hiking every day. Stop when you feel like it. Take little side trips to see cool stuff. Some days, you'll feel great and make like 20 miles. Other days, you might go 5 and read under a tree for the afternoon. Got a general anesthetic for wisdom teeth removal. After waiting what felt like an eternity in a little prep room. I was just thinking about using the restroom just for something to do when I'm swarmed by nurses or whatever. Before I could react, they stuck things all over me and one of them got the drugs in me and I could immediately feel effects. I remember vividly thinking, well FK. No going back now, as they wheeled me to theater. And then the procedure and recovery went as smoothly as they could have gone. Here. Try this hot wing. Quote. Took a bite and for the next 18 hours. I could only focus on how this was a crime against humanity. And for those now asking. It was the last dab XX on a drumstick. It was coated all over. I just ate one big bite. And then I went and shoved my head under a cold shower. Then, it was bed and bathroom for several hours as I threw up most of it. But some got digested. I knew going it that it was gonna be hot. My former roommate was a hot sauce aficionado. He never once handed me a wing that was less than a habanero sauce. The question was, am I about to have Ghost Pepper X, Carolina Reaper, habanero, etc.? The next day was a crime against lavatories. Indeed, it was a whole day. Somehow I managed to forget that spicy food hurts coming out every single time I eat it. It's all sunshine and buttercups until I'm crowning on the toilet and it feels like every atom in the log of ST has its own little shank that they're aching to use. When I was on my way to see a girl I had been talking to online for 3 months who lived on the other side of the world. Just put all of my eggs in one basket and said, FK it. The ST. No going back now, feeling really hit when the plane took off. That girl is now my wife. Sometimes you just gotta go for it. Midway into my first, not for beginners, ski slope. I could stop and chicken out. But I continued. It was freaking amazing. Went for a second time. Got injured 10 seconds before the end. Still, worth it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.